Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a good Christmas and hopefully you're going to have a good New Year as well. So today I'm having a look at Insurgency Sandstorm. I'm going to do a quick review for it, and it's just, as I say, it's based on my opinion for the most part. I've played the game now for a good 2 weeks, so I've got a good amount of gameplay on it, and it's been interesting so far. It's got some good points, it's got some bad points, so I'm going to go through that today. Hope you enjoy. So first of all, we're going to look at the bad points and get that out of the way. For me, the biggest downside to this game is the rendering, and I think this happens because the game, the PlayStation for me, I think it struggles to handle this game. It can't handle it. It's made for PC, and especially I'm on the PlayStation 4 version of it. It can't handle the game too well. And what then this affects as well is the frame rate, and the frame rate can be really frustrating sometimes if you're in a close proximity to a lot of other players and there's a big firefight going on. Your game can start to lag, the frames drop, and it can mean you can lose kills because of it. You can gain deaths because of frame rate issues, which is really frustrating. And when you're doing well, or when you're holding an objective point, you know the last thing you want is frame rates to fuck your gameplay up. But it does happen a lot. But like I said, I'm not sure if this happens on all consoles. I'm playing the PlayStation 4 version, but I know it's on the updated consoles. It's on Xbox, I think it's on PC as well. So it might not happen on the different consoles, but I know for a fact PlayStation 4 struggles with rendering, and then therefore the frame rates also drop as well sometimes, which is really frustrating. They're the two worst points in this game, but the frame rate it needs fixing, especially if they can try and fix that. That would be great. The thing is, this game, I think when I downloaded it was only 9 gigabytes, so they've got plenty of room to I imagine to improve it, because most games on PlayStation these days you're talking like 50 gigabytes and 100 gigabytes for certain games. I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the most recent one, the 2019 version, I think it was 120 gigabytes. It was something crazy. So really, I imagine the creators have got a lot of gigabytes to play around with, maybe to bring improvements to this game. So hopefully they do that, but the rendering's definitely an issue. If you're using a scope, you've been the marksman. Sometimes the rendering could be an issue because buildings don't look detailed enough, so it's hard to give call-outs, and it's really frustrating. It's a really difficult issue, and you can't really work around it either. I think as well the graphics were really disappointing for me when I first went in the game. Now again, I'm on the PlayStation 4 edition, so you've got to bear that in mind. But as soon as you go into the main menu, you notice straight away that graphics look a bit blotchy. They look very old school. It reminds you of like a game from PS3 or Xbox 360, really old gen stuff, or getting really old gen these days. The character design looks strange. The faces and things look a bit strange. But then when you go into the maps usually seem okay when you haven't got rendering issues, because the rendering issues don't always happen. They just happen enough that you notice them. For the most part, the maps look fine. So what the game could do with is a polish off graphically, and just to bring it that sort of current generation and next generation feel. There's also quite a few bugs to this game that need fixing, and one of the bugs is there's a map called Hillside, and on certain game modes, if you're playing as a squad, the game literally just doesn't load up. It'll just stay on the loading icon for however long you're waiting to put up with it. So usually you have to close your game down, restart your game to go back on, which is really frustrating. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to wait around in menus all day. Again, the loading times are quite long for this game. You've got to get used to that. Some of them, as I say, Hillside's buggy, but I think there's other maps that are a bit buggy as well, where the loading time does take longer than usual. There's problems where inviting friends doesn't work. Sometimes you have to close the game down because you can't invite your friends, or you've ended up in a game where half your squad's here and half your squad isn't. So there's a few bugs that need fixing. Now I know when this game was first released initially, there was loads of bugs. There was loads of day one bugs, so they brought a big patch out straight away and fixed a lot of stuff, which is really good. But obviously there's still issues now, still issues in the game now that need fixing, need polishing off, and hopefully they'll do that soon. People should be aware as well that there is microtransactions in this game. I absolutely hate microtransactions in any way, shape or form, but at least in this game they are cosmetics only, so you don't have to worry. I don't think there's any extra maps behind a paywall as of yet, so it's only cosmetics, so helmets and character stuff. So there's quite a lot of character design on this game, and some things you can buy with in-game credits, which you get given from playing games and doing well in games. So I don't know what they're called. I think they're just called credits or something. And then some of those credits can be used to buy items like hats and helmets and masks and things for your insurgent operator and your security operator. But then some things are behind a paywall. There's like extra special helmets, black helmets, sort of more of the cooler looking shit is behind paywalls usually. So you should just be aware of that before buying the game. Alright, so we're now going to look at more of the positive points in this game, starting with the tactical element. So first of all, this game is really tactical, and we have nothing like it on console at the minute as far as I'm concerned. Enlisted doesn't come anywhere close to this, Siege doesn't come anywhere close, Call of Duty Battlefield nowhere close. This is the most tactical first-person shooter game you can get on console at the minute. It's absolutely fantastic, and what it does do, which very few games tend to do these days, is encourage squad play. Now, each role on the team does something for the squad, whether it be demolitions, whether it be the commander, the observer, the rifleman. Everyone has a part to play in this game, and the way it's shaped out, the way the game chat works, it's made for squad play. So if you've got a group of friends who you like to play with and you're looking for a tactical and realistic game, this is the game for you. It's fantastic for that element. And what encourages me is it's the first game I've played since when Siege first came out that has been full of players in game chat speaking to each other. It's something you don't see on console these days much. It used to be a big thing back on the old gen days of 360 and PS3, but now with like sort of parties and things, people tend not to go into game chat anymore because they already play with a set amount of people. Well, what I'm seeing with this game is people are coming back into game chat, using the gameplay, the game chat features, and they're using it to actually win matches and capture objectives, which is fantastic. So definitely one of the best things about this game is the tactical element and the squad play element. The next big thing is the immersive feeling within this game. Now, again, for a hardcore shooter, for an immersive shooter, you need the sounds to be good, you need the gore to be good, you need it to be realistic, and this game brings all of that. The sounds of the weapons are fantastic. The weapon pings near you when you're getting shot is amazing. Grenades, everything is so immersive. It's atmospheric. It's the best game I've heard for sound yet, as far as like FPS shooters go, sort of realistic war shooters go. The only game that sort of reminds me of it that I've played in recent times would maybe be Verdun or Enlisted, because Enlisted has some good sounds. I've heard people complain about Enlisted. Yeah, the rifles on Enlisted are a bit shit, but the world itself, the maps themselves are very immersive, and the sounds are fantastic. But this game, Insurgency, blows it out of the water. Again, I don't think Call of Duty or Battlefield will ever come close to what Insurgency's done here with the sounds. Another thing that's important is the gore. It's realistic, it's a gritty game, and that's what you want from a war game. You want it to be gritty. No one wants to play a war game where it's not gritty, it's not realistic, and it's got to shock you, and this game does shock you at points when you're in a close quarter battle and there's blood hitting the walls and there's bombs going off, there's people screaming, there's grenades everywhere. It's immersive and it's gritty, and when you've got a good pair of headphones on, it's absolutely fantastic. Great game for that. A vital aspect for any first-person shooter is also the gunplay, and the gunplay in this game, as far as I'm concerned, is fantastic. It's difficult, it's a hardcore shoot, you've got to get used to the recoil, you've got to know what you're doing, you've got to know what attachments you put on your weapons, and you've got to get used to the weapons, and once you get used to them, it's really good. There's leaning mechanics a bit dodgy, you have to get used to it again, but it does work sometimes. But the overall gunplay is really good. It's not like the gunplay that you get from a regular FPS. It's hardcore, and as I say, the recoil patterns are different for each weapon, and you've got to mess around with your attachments. Now, what's interesting about this game is the amount of attachments you can get and the amount of weapons you can get. There's plenty of weapons which differ from the insurgents and the security forces, obviously. So one side, for example, will have a lot of AK-47 style weapons, whilst the other side has M4s, M16s, and that type of weapon. So it's all about playing around with your attachments, what you enjoy, and there's plenty of choice for both sides. And what you've got to remember as well is there's different squad roles within the game. So if you're playing as a demolition, you'll get different weapons. If you're playing as I think it's the gunner, you get machine guns and MG. I think there's an MG36 or something like that. So I'm not sure if that's the correct name for it, but you get your big weapons. So there's a good weapons choice, and it's just about getting used to them. But the gunplay overall is fantastic. Next thing is character design. Now, I've briefly gone over this in the bad points. Obviously, there is cosmetic items behind a paywall which you have to get, but not all cosmetic items are behind a paywall. There's still plenty of options for you to pick and choose your character and design it how you want. Now, what I like games that do this because they make the game more personal. You can design it to however you want, so you can make like a special ops looking character, you can make like a typical grunt, and then on your insurgent you can design it in different ways. So my insurgent looks like the guy from Behind Enemy Lines, who wears the blue tracksuit, and he does all the sniping when he's chasing the two American down pilots. So you can design it however you want, which is really good. And again, it just sort of gives a more personal experience to the game. So the final point I want to make here is that the maps are really good as well, and they've got small range, medium range and long range maps. And actually, even on the small range maps, what you'll tend to find is if you have a look at the in-game map itself, you'll be able to see there's different flank routes, which is really good, because what it does there is it plays to different elements of how people like to play. So some people might like longer range sniping type of stuff, so they might go on the flanks and watch the marshland areas, whilst if you like your close quarter combat areas, you might go down the middle of maps and use the buildings and use the more close range weapons. So the maps play to a variation of styles of gameplay, which is really good. I mean, that's what you want. You want a variation when you're playing the game. You want to be able to use different classes and enjoy that. Just like all games though, there's some maps that I prefer and some maps that I dislike. For me, some maps are too open, they're a bit awkward. There's a map which I can't quite remember, but it's sort of like a building that's toppled over. So when you're actually running through the map, you're sort of always you're almost running on a diagonal constantly, so it's quite difficult. But you've got to get used to the different maps, and overall it's pretty good. So that was all the good points and bad points for this game. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you get some good information from that and you can make a fair decision on the game if you want to buy it or not. I'm not going to tell you that you should or shouldn't, because it's not for me to decide. What I will tell you though is I wouldn't buy this game personally for the price that it is, and I think currently on PlayStation 5 it's £35. Now I got this game in the January sales when it was £25, and I feel that £25 currently is the right price for this game, purely because the glitches on the game and the rendering issues and graphical issues need to be polished off for it to be more expensive than that for me personally. In the wider context of the gaming sphere, if you like, if you look at games like Battlefield and Call of Duty, you're talking about £50 games, £60 games even these days. In comparison to those games, this game's an absolute bargain, I suppose. So if you look at it in the wider context, then I suppose the price isn't too bad. For me personally, I'm gonna stick with my decision on that. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.